We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the Cash Flow Pro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of Cash Flow Pro, your daily real estate investing podcast and YouTube channel. I'm here today with Vik Raya of Viking Capital Investments. Vik, how are you today?
Hey, man, I'm doing great.
Awesome. So we were kind of talking a little bit, sharing our backstories and with each other prior to hitting record, and we're not terribly far apart geographically, but I think you said you kind of buy in the Southeast. Is that right? Is that kind of your focus area?
We like the Sun Belt, so whether that's Phoenix, whether that's Texas, whether that's Atlanta, Florida, we like it all.
Sure, man. Yeah, as long as it's making money, I guess, right? No matter where it's at in the Sun Belt. I got you. Well, cool. Exactly. Well, Vik, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the real estate business, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, unusual story. I should be doing a cardiology procedure, a stent or someone who's had a heart attack, but instead I'm here talking to you.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about real estate, but yeah, my background's, I was a cardiologist.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's quite the, I don't know, because I couldn't be a cardiologist. That's quite the interchange, I guess. But, I'll tell you, I find a lot of medical professionals as well as engineers in this space. It seems like I run into more of those two types of folks that were on those other career paths than I do about any other. I don't know if it's the systematic approach, if it's the way, because obviously we're not operating on hearts, but we're definitely solving problems and doing them in a systematic fashion. So what made you give up, or I guess I'm assuming you gave up cardiac?
I don't think I wouldn't call it giving it up. It's just transitioning. Like, when you're a doctor, that's your identity and that's all you do. And, you even call yourself a doctor. You have two initials, perhaps before your name, or perhaps after your name, right? Yep. MD or DR. But I didn't want to be caged into such a limiting definition. Like,
sure.
I'm a dad of two kids. I'm a real estate investor. I'm an avid reader. I have a coaching and mentorship company that helps other doctors, achieve the 5 freedoms. I do so many other things. And so it's nice to have that expansive identity. And now Real estate investing just happens to be one of them.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So are you actively in the medical field right now as well?
Yeah. So I have 3 companies. One is Viking, as we mentioned. The second one is called Limitless MD, which is high performance coaching for people who are ready to go to becoming extraordinary. And then the third one is called Vitology Institute, which is a health and wellness thing where we help people sort of biohack and human optimize and reverse disease. And so all 3 are running right now. But my main focus is really on the real estate.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So that's kind of, I guess, where our focus is, but tell us a little bit about the third one was the one that was kind of intriguing to me. Tell us a little bit more about that one, just for nothing more than curiosity.
Sure. A lot of people out there are sick, and then, doctors find out they're sick and they sort of stabilize them. But, very few places can take someone who's like, okay, and make them like, live beyond 100 years of age. And like on my podcast, I just had a guest. He's a CEO of a company called El Nutra, and they have a nutritional technology that's helping people go live beyond the age of 120. And so like that are really intriguing to me, and because once you get all the money in the world, if you don't have the health, then what's the point? So I have a lot of CEOs and executives who, man, they would give it all away if they can just get, their health back. So
sure.
my goal is, man, I want to conquer it all. I want cash flow. I want appreciation. I want tax efficiency, but I want to have like a youthful body so I can enjoy it all.
Yep.
And I don't want to burn my bridges with my kith and kin, like my kids, my wife, my friends, my family. So I want strong relations with them. So I sort of look at a holistic view of wealth, Casey, and I think that sets me apart a little bit, because most people, man, they just want that cash flow and they think it's going to solve everything. And I think it's a huge part of it. That's why I think, the 5 freedoms I talk about, financial freedom is number 1. You got to get that first. The second one you want to chase is time freedom. And that's why I love real estate. Once I realized that real estate can help me achieve those things, I really dove in head deep. I started with single family homes, built up a portfolio about 30 with my father. And then eventually realized that, I'm to chase those freedoms, I need to achieve what I call LGS, leverage, growth, and scale.
Okay.
And that's when you need to realize more doors, same amount of work, you just need to get more doors done.
That's right.
Multifamily came to, but I'm like, how the heck do I pay for it? Even as a cardiologist, I didn't have the money to take down a multifamily deal. So enter the world of syndication, which is essentially raising capital through friends and family, investors, things like that. Yep. So learning to master that. And, when I was running my health and wellness institute, I had to learn how to attract patients because I was not in the insurance model. And so it's learning funnels and marketing and how to, copy and all of that, it just translated easily into doing the same thing for investors. So I've tried to, I guess, marry ideas across disciplines to help me achieve goals that most people sometimes find difficult to achieve.
Sure. Yeah. And that's awesome. And especially, you hit the nail on the head for a lot of people. And I hope someday that I'm not in that same boat, but, I don't have the healthiest genetics for that, for saying what I'm going to say. But, a lot of times you said these big CEOs or executives or whatever, they'd give it all back if they could just have their health back. And a lot of times that you spend so much time chasing the thing that you think is going to give you freedom, only to be sideswiped by something such as some kind of a health crisis or some type of a health issue. And, the heart troubles and stuff that lead and obviously Caucasian males like myself that have that tend to operate at a high stress level, is just enormous. And you're right. I mean, having the whole package means having the whole package. And so I don't know, man, that's an interesting take on it all.
Here, Casey, I want to help your listeners right away, because I know you provide them so much value. You bring on the top guests from all over the country. You bring them, cutting edge things that really are going to change their life. Well, let me add a few more things, and then let's get back into the real estate after that. But let's do this. Here's 5 strategies for your listeners, like to really bulletproof their health. Number 1 is get clarity. Where the heck are you? Right. And you can go to your typical doctor and they'll do their typical tests. And most of the time they'll tell you something. Some of it's pretty accurate. Some of it may not be. If you really want to figure out your health, you may need to go a little deeper. So I would say maybe get more advanced labs, because half the people walking around are pre-diabetic. They don't even know it. So really something like an A1C, for example, a lab like that, and then looking for pre-diabetes is huge. Another marker is called CRP. It's a marker of inflammation. Most doctors don't check it. They should. So I'll just give you those 2 things. Next is really, okay, once you got clarity on where you are, where do you want to go? And you got to build that into your schedule. No one's going to you're not going to bump into free time that allows you to work out, in between deals, chasing investors, going to tour assets, talking to brokers. That's not going to happen. So you got to build that in. And it got to be a non-negotiable. So make that part of your thing. Here's some of the non-negotiables that if your investors can do, your listeners can do, it'd be huge. Number 1 is the 10,000 steps. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. You got to do it, because I know a lot of people who pump weights, lift weights, but then the rest of the day they're on a Zoom calls all day long.
Yep.
And that's actually almost as bad as not exercising at all. So get the 10,000 steps in. So start doing your meetings with headphones in your ear, turn off your camera and walk. Okay?
There you go.
Number 2, 3 liters of water a day. I get these Nalgene bottles. Get them on Amazon. And most people don't drink enough water. 3 liters a day. Number 3, get your 6 to 7 hours of sleep, right? If you can't, if 6 hours is not enough, do what Arnold Schwarzenegger says: sleep faster, right?
Yes.
And then you got to do some lifting. As a man, I'm assuming a lot of your listeners are men, but there could be women too. It doesn't matter. You got to lift. So at least once a week, lift, ideally 3 times a week. And then, the final thing is follow some kind of nutritional program. I don't know what it is, but I would say, eat real things. 75% of your plate be vegetables and 25% meats.
Yep.
I think it's a realistic thing to follow. Yep. So that's it. And then
health and then to on to the wealth, that's right.
Let's talk about wealth now. Let's talk about, now that you got the body, how do you get the brains, and how do you get the war chest?
Yep. And I think that's certainly the direction everybody wants to go once they figure out that and I think a lot of people, I don't even know the percentage of people that don't go to the doctor regularly and that lead a high stress, even just capital raising. And, you take a deal, and you take one deal, take one, say 200 unit complex. That's a $10 million deal or something. And you start doing a $2 or $3 million raise on that. And man, I mean, that takes a toll on everything. It takes a toll on you mentally. And, I think that the one thing that I think everybody can agree on, no matter what race you are, no matter what sex you are, no matter what anything that you are, the one thing I think everybody agrees on is the hardest thing on your body is stress, period. That's the number that has to be the leading cause. And all of this stuff is high stress.
I'll give you an example, Casey. So I took a month off last month where I told my team, hey, you guys got this. I'm going to Italy with my family. I'll see you in a month. And, I use a technology called the Oura Ring, OURA ring. It's a sort of a biohacking ring you put on your on your finger that replaces your wedding ring, perhaps. Yep. And then I was measuring something called heart rate variability, HRV. And, the higher the HRV, the less stress you have, right? And then the lower the HRV, the more stress you have. So, I would do all these things, but when I was in my normal element, doing deals, working out, doing all my stuff, talking to brokers, talking to investors, my HRV is around like 55, 60. I was on vacation and I was actually having glasses of wine. I was not really monitoring. I'm in Italy. You can't really monitor your food as well. Yeah. But my HRV went to 99. And that was because I was sleeping and I had no stress. And I was around my family, So it just goes to show you how big a role stress is playing. So I think it's mindset, guys. To be a really good capital raiser, to go into syndications eventually, and to build a team, you got to envision something very powerful. Then you got to build a team and reverse engineer the whole thing. And so I've had coaches along my path. I've listened to self-development books. I would create vision boards. I would do all these things, and it's because you got to sort of like throw the football over the fence and then go run and catch it. Yep. You go run and find it. And that's why there's so many like real estate investors that go to Tony Robbins conferences. They go to all these things because it's such a mindset game. It's 80% mindset, 20% mechanics.
Sure. That's right. And once you get that mindset, and I'll tell you that's a big limiting beliefs are huge. And the limiting beliefs, once you can kind of shatter those and be like, man, listen, because that's what it took and that's what it takes for a lot of folks out there that follow me that know that it hasn't been that I'm not that far separated from the single family ownership and the single family. I'm talking about the single family rental ownership rather. And it's like, how does this work? And how do these people go and take down a 200 unit apartment complex? And that mind shift and that mindset of saying, okay, hey, I don't need to know how to do it today. I just need to know that I can do it, and then reverse engineer. Okay, what do you have to get a $10 million apartment complex, right? You have to have somewhere in the vicinity of $2.5 million down, $2 to $2.5 million down. So, all right, Now, I know that you can go to the bank and get the 7.5, right? Where does that 2.5 come from? How many people actually have 2.5 liquid cash sitting around saying, oh, hey, I need to go do something. Let's go buy an apartment complex, right? Very, very few people. So you take that. All right. Now, how do you get that 2.5 million? Okay. Well, we take outside investors and then you just reverse engineer all the way down. But the first step was almost creating that belief that you can own that, you can accomplish that. Now, how do you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you broke that down, Casey. I like how you make it so simple for your listeners to follow. So, going back a couple of moons ago, I had done 30 homes with my father, single family homes. We were really proud, but I was like, it didn't really change my income that much because, my wife forbid me to use my own name or like our economic history, if you will, to buy deals. So I had to use creative financing. I'd essentially say this is a random LLC buying a deal, no track record, no net worth. And so I had hard money loans. I did all of that stuff. So there was not much cash flow coming out of these deals. So after 30 deals, you'd think you'd be like, oh man, I'm set. No, it was good, but it was like, okay. I knew I needed to get to that next level. And so I found a buddy of mine who, he was sort of semi-retired. He was a physician who had done like a couple of threeplexes. He was like, oh yeah, man, I'm chilling. I'm good. I'm like, all right, that's cute, Ravi, but let's play with the big leagues. Let's buy 100 unit. He's like, there's no freaking way I'm going to buy 100 unit. How do you do that? No one I know has ever done that. So then it's the disbelief. It's like, and it's like, yo, man, there's a strategy. It's called multifamily syndication. He's like, what? That sounds illegal, man. So, and you go through
illegal, man. That's the first. It's funny you say that. That's the first thing. Whenever I was like, and I'll be honest, I don't want to say names because I don't want to give the impression that anybody is not up to snuff in this business, because that was the first thought. There's a guru that does syndications that's all over social media, on every social media channel, does massive syndications. And I was like, man, that guy, whatever, dude, he's getting people to, there's no way. Well, until I sat down and dissected the operating agreements, and I was like, oh my God, this is how people do this. This is it. This is the key.
Yep.
And they're reverse engineered, and that's what you said, reverse engineer. If people can just get that mindset right, you can reverse everything from your health to your wealth to your happiness to your family life to everything. You got to set the goal, then
I think there's two things I live by, Casey. I would like to share with your listeners. One is, you can't do everything. I mean, you can't do everything, but you can do anything.
Yep.
So, and a corollary to that is everything you touch turns to gold, but you got to touch one thing at a time.
That's right. Yeah. So, you can't touch it all at once and turn it all to gold.
Right.
You have to do it one at a time.
So figure out where in the real estate space you want to play. Are you a multifamily guy? Are you a single family guy? Are you a wholesaler? Are you a flipper? Are you self-storage? Are you retail, office, hospitality? It doesn't matter. Mobile home parks. Choose one and then go deep.
Yeah. And, and that brings up an interesting point, which I struggle with this myself. So I don't want to act like, because I'm pointing it out, that I'm any different than anybody else. But the people who I've seen that are the most successful, and you meet a lot of people today that have been doing whatever they're doing for, say, 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is, right? And you're like, man, that guy, Vic, he does it all. He does this, he does this, he does this, he does that. But the thing is that if you go back to the beginning of your journey, you likely were focused on one thing, right? You didn't have all of these facets of this business going when you first started. And what I'm getting at is the word focus. The focus part of it is even something that I struggle with on a daily basis. I struggle with everything down to trying to pick out my avatar investor, right? Every time I get down, and I told you, it's funny because my avatar investor is an anesthesiologist, right? Perfect. The anesthesiologist is typically high income, probably low time. When I say time, I mean free time, like much like yourself. There's really not a lot of difference, I think, from the avatar perspective in a cardiologist and an anesthesiologist. Both highly educated and both very systems oriented, right? And very problem solving oriented. Hey, I want to make 8% on my money. Hey, I want to make 10% on my money. Hey, I want to do this. Okay, what do I need to go get to do that? So it's that same mentality, but it's the focus that really separates. I think the focus really separates a lot of people. And I think that is where a lot of people get off track, because you start to, and I've seen it even in the real estate sales business, where you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on single family sales and single family sales only. Okay. Well, then you get somebody that calls you about a commercial space. You're like, all right, well, I can help you with that. I don't really, and then before you know it, your focus is everywhere else.
I'll tell you, Casey, we looked at CBD, we looked at hemp farms. I've looked at development deals, but what I've realized is at this stage, every time I go on a rabbit hole or a shiny object syndrome, I'm slowing my inevitable empire building and my next tycoon level growth. So what I've realized, the number one thing we're really good at, that we've crushed it consistently, is buying 200 to 400 unit suburban, 1980s to 2000s vintage properties in the Sun Belt, and rinsing and repeating our value add strategy. If I go away from that strategy, which I've done a couple of times here and there, it just slows us down. And we make mistakes and we get into trouble and do things that don't necessarily further the goal. And it takes a lot more energy and time. So Warren Buffett says success is boring. So the problem is people get bored and they start straying from the path.
Yeah. Hey, that's probably one of the best points ever, especially once you define that system and really get that system working, and you're not necessarily in a customer service business, then I mean, especially if people go from the W-2 ring, 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 hello, ring, 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 hello, all day long, they go from that to, you mean I get a check every month? I don't have to do anything for it? Okay, what am I going to do now? Okay, it's like, so that's why it's so interesting to follow that.
But yeah, it's been fun really helping these investors all over the country really build their wealth. And, I think cash flow is awesome. I think depreciation is talked about and underutilized, but that's huge. In fact, I have people from all over the country, especially in the Silicon Valley area, who invest. And they're like, I don't care if you're making me any money. Just don't lose my money and keep giving me those losses. I need them to offset all my.
That's right. We got to have that depreciation. We got to have that capital write-off. So tell us a little bit now. Let's move in and talk a little bit more about Viking Capital and how many investors do you all service or service?
I think we're starting to probably get up to getting close to 1,000 investors now in our investor database. We have about 12,000 on our list, of which 1,000 have already been part of our projects.
Okay, awesome. And then how do you grow that list? Obviously, that list has to grow every day, I would say.
It's adding an insane amount of value. It's marketing. It's getting yourself out there. It's like doing what I'm doing these podcasts, doing webinars. I go meet with investors, shake hands, word of mouth. I'm speaking at conferences, thought leadership, and ebooks. I created investment courses for my club. So for example, any of your listeners who are interested, they can go to vikingmultifamily.com, and they have a 7-day passive income course where they can go through and learn everything they need to know about investing in syndication. So this is what it's a commitment. It's not like, and once you build it, it's not like, oh, they're going to invest with you forever. No, you have to keep them engaged, because the moment you stop giving them deals or stop giving them education, they'll just go to someone else.
Yeah. Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the Cash Flow Pro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 must-know keys to success in passive real estate investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making Cash Flow Pro part of your day. Now, back to the show. That's right. And so, and the thing is that you have to be providing value in the way of stuff, and stuff being education or furthering that education, or value in the returns. And a lot of times the combination of both keeps those people coming back. Now, when you say, so like doing marketing events and stuff like that, and obviously you can speak doctor, which probably is not a hurt. It probably doesn't hurt you when you're in a group of say physicians or at a medical conference or something like that, where you can pass along, oh, hey, by the way, do you know that you can take your massive income and turn it into passive income?
I like that. So, it's interesting. One of my avatars, is probably the high income, low net worth individual, which there's a lot of them in the United States. So it's really helping these people who appear rich, but really are not having a proper, a level of wealth to sustain themselves long term. And the moment they stop working, which we found out during the pandemic can happen even to doctors,
yeah,
it really exposes them. It really creates a lot of exposure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then the thing about multifamily residential, specific way I say any of these syndications, doesn't even have to be multifamily specifically, but anything that has a monthly dividend to it, basically, is what I call it. That makes money while you sleep, or that makes money while you're off doing something that you want to be off doing. And the thing is that a lot of people just don't even, they're not geared for that concept, right? They're not geared for the fact that something that they can get a check that they didn't have to directly associate themselves with whatever it was to get it. Do you find a lot of medical professionals that you deal with or talk to, do they already understand this concept, or do you find yourself having to explain that to a lot of people?
In medical school, they don't really teach us that much about financial education. So a lot of that, the doctors have to take their own initiative and learn. And, I'm happy to be, one of the people out there that's helping promote that. That's why my podcast, Limitless MD podcast, my company, all of us is just trying to once you educate them, and then if they know, like, and trust you, then it's a no-brainer. So
yeah,
I think we're authentic. We don't care if they invest with us or someone else. We just want to get the knowledge out there. And then, why not invest with someone who looks like you, meaning I'm a physician, they're a physician, or, their company seems to be reputable. They have, testimonials. They seem to have the kind of team to handle this level of investor, And that level of sophistication is hopefully what we're, and it wasn't like that. Initially, it was just me and my buddy just, slugging away. We created this thing. Grant Cardone says, this is like his image and his company is all a figment of his imagination. So this was a figment of my imagination. I was like, all right, we want to be the number one source for physicians in real estate in the world. And, and so,
as you said, Grant Cardone, I'll tell you a funny story real quick. About a month or two ago, I was just sitting at home and I had a little extra time, and I was on Instagram and I saw one of his posts or whatever come up. And so I went to his Instagram, right? And I sit there for like 20 minutes and I went all the way down to his very first Instagram post. Yeah. And somewhere along the way, about, I'm going to say, I don't know, 50 or 75 posts up from the bottom, he's sitting in an airport and he takes a picture of an American Airlines plane and says, getting ready to fly to wherever to speak at whatever. And I was like, man, that's just sick. And I mean, even if I don't even know when that was, but even if you go back to like when Instagram first started, or whenever he first got on Instagram or whatever, I mean, you just think about that. I mean, that's how quick this transition of being a nobody.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily maybe a nobody, but being.
I remember when he was like, he was just getting going. So in this business we're in, at least in the multifamily syndication, but in general, commercial real estate, if you can work hard for 3 years, you can live like no one else's business for the rest of your life.
That's right. People, if you give up 5 years, go after it hard, dig in for 5 years. And unless you're like me and go through a divorce and have a bump in the road, you can pound away. And then after that, smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Right?
We call it escape velocity in the business. So, there's a certain gravitational pull of mediocrity that most people have. You fight against that resistance. You put an afterburner on, you get a Falcon X rocket from Elon Musk.
Yep.
You strap it to your back and you push, you achieve what we call escape velocity. Then you can't get stopped.
Yep. And just when you think you've gone far enough, go just a little bit further.
Yeah.
And it's all, and
then
then
it's all the power of one more, recommended for your life.
He just came out of that book, what, a month or two ago, something like that. I saw that. I tell you, I'm a big Ed Mylett fan. I think he just he helps people discover their purpose. He really gives you good intentional advice to live by. It's, even if you didn't do anything, but just follow what he does on his social media and read his books. So anyway, awesome. Hey, Vic, listen, so we're kind of running out of time here, but I got a couple of questions, and I can't wait to hear your answers, because I'll be honest with you, some of the things you've done and where you've been in your life is gonna probably lead us to some very interesting answers. But the first of the questions that I have to ask is, what is the best book that you have recently read or are currently reading?
$100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi.
Awesome, man. We get that about once a week. I mean, it's truthfully, I mean, there's just so many good business books out there and so many good things, but that one is really sticks out. So awesome. All right. Now this question is one I was waiting to answer. As soon as I heard you talk about your trip with your family and so on, I'm curious to know this, but what is a dream vacation that you have either taken or hope to take?
In 4 weeks, I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Really? Oh man, that's killer, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's a dream, huh?
That's a bucket list.
Awesome, man. Awesome. My wife and I crossed the same bucket list item off that you did just back in the springtime. We went to Italy and went from, flew into Milan and went to Florence, and then took a train down to Rome and basically just did the whole carbonara every night for dinner and like 8 beers every night for dinner thing, So it was awesome. Listen, Vic, how can people reach out and get in touch with you if they heard something that resonated with them, or they want to get in touch with you and talk to you about investments or
I'm all over social media. So my name is Vikram Raya, Vikram. Last name is Raya, Raya. My company is Viking Capital, and the website is vikingmultifamily.com.
Awesome. Vic, thank you so much for your time. I know as busy of a man as you are, it's hard sometimes to find time to do things like this, but we really do appreciate everything you brought to us today. I want you to real quick repeat those 5 things that you told us earlier.
For the health?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. Guys, get your 10,000 steps in. Number 2, drink 3 liters of water a day. Try to get your 6 to 7 hours of sleep. Follow a nutrition plan. I recommend, 75% of your plate vegetables, 25%, healthy meats, and then get in your workouts, and, there's 3 types of workouts: flexibility, strength, and cardio. Maybe try to do one of each,
Yep.
And keep it simple.
I think if your health is good, your wealth will be even better. And I'm a big proponent of taking that time to definitely sweat. I have kind of likened it to saying, hey, if I can just sweat once a day, good, hard, solid sweat.
Yeah.
Man, let's roll with it. So awesome. Listeners, as always, please head down and leave us a review. Leave us a 5-star review, and also type a review so that people may know what you liked about the Cash Flow Pro podcast. And while you're there, please hit the subscribe button, smash the subscribe button so that you can be notified when we release new content and new episodes. We would love to have you back to listen to the Cash Flow Pro podcast. And Vic, again, thank you so much, sir. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Casey.
Cash Flow Pro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.